intention is to
Yeah,
be back.
so sorry about all that, guys. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. But anyway, so welcome to the live. So this is Lewis and Rob about that RV life. Today we're going to talk about rental walkthrough conversations, realistic expectations, certain things like that. Just want to do a quick mic check. Can you guys hear me okay?
Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, check.
Yes, hopefully. There we go. All right. So today we're going to talk about, we feel like there's two areas that are super important when you have a renter that's renting your units. Is one, like, how soon do you start communicating with them? How often do you communicate them once they rent your unit? And then what does that look like kind of following up until their actual rental? And then at the end, we want to talk about realistic expectations and kind of the things that we talk to people about when it comes to just really kind of setting the table for them and what they should expect throughout their experience, right? We want to make sure that their experience is good. So those are some of the things that we want to talk through today. First things first, though, I wanted to chat with you guys a little bit about our merch shop. I don't know if you guys noticed, we got our shelf set up. So there's my wife. We got her About That RV life gear, and then of course our coffee mugs, and there's all sorts of other things there too that are really cool. So take a look at that. And then we just did our first couple of one-on-one coaching sessions with a couple of people last week, which was kind of cool. And again, you can find that. It's in the description below. You can get started with Patreon, and I do one-on-one coaching. There is a little bit of language on there that I need to change. It's for one session a month, basically. We'll coach you. And I think what it sounds like is that we're doing a session a week for the amount of money. So anyway, so let's, take a look at that on Patreon. And then of course, check out all of our social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram. Somebody told me the link wasn't working from our YouTube channel, so I just fixed that. So hopefully that's working now.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know if it's not. And then, we're at Facebook. We're all over the place. So definitely check us out. So first things first, when it comes to communication, you talk about like what forms of communication, right? So there's Messenger, there's text message, there is phone calls, like all sorts of different types of forms of communication. Most of the time, people are either emailing us through the platforms, right? Or they're, so I've had some cases where they're going to our website, finding us, and then calling us directly, which is preferable for me. And when you look at the platforms and stuff like that, a lot of them are pretty cool. They've got, it's almost like instant messenger or text message. When you get a message from Outdoorsy or RV Share, it's pretty cool. Like it gets right to you, and then you can respond.
Notifies you in 15 different places. Yes. Actually, it's kind of like woof.
Yeah. If you set up your notifications, you can definitely get multiple messages. Which for us, I think for my wife, it's I'm the one who deals with most of the customers anyway. So for me, it's totally okay. I like it.
Well, the nice thing is we're really big on making sure that our renters know they can get in touch with us. And so for us, it's nice because if Lewis is in a meeting or he's doing something for his job that he's not available to interact with a customer, he can let me know, hey, we just got a message, will you handle this?
Yeah.
And then I can step in and do what I need to do, and our customers never have to be left hanging. And it's always been one of the big things that people talk about with our rentals versus renting from other people is that they know that we're going to get back to them almost instantaneously most of the time, and at the very most an hour. I don't think we've let anybody go longer than 20 minutes unless they messaged us in the middle of the night. And
and that's one of the topics I was going to touch on towards the end here. But yeah, so what are platforms, right? There's RV Share, Outdoorsy. Our Wheelbase works just like an email kind of a service, and we'll also get text messages because it goes through Outdoorsy. So we'll get text messages from Outdoorsy through the Wheelbase platform and stuff, which is kind of cool. And then there's other platforms that we don't use, but I'm assuming that they're the same way. But when it comes to communication, we feel like it's super important to get back to your renters within the first 5 to 10 minutes if you can. And if you're at work, totally understand, but at least within an hour. one of the things that we have found, we've had a lot of people tell us this over emails, that I've reached out to a lot of people in your area and nobody's gotten back to me, or they thank us for getting back to them so fast, right? So for us, we don't want to lose out on that business if it's a good rental week or whatever. We don't want to lose out on the business, so we want to get back to them as soon as possible. I didn't realize this either, but with this, I think it's a smart match on RV Share. If you don't get back to them within a certain amount of time, that it basically cancels. And I think they give them like up to 3 rental owners to get back to them, and then once that's done, it's done, right? So I had that happen where I didn't get back to a handful of them. I think we're out of town or something like that, didn't get back to them. Ended up getting back to them, and then they wouldn't let me send them an email because it said that they had already that they already had found something or something like that. So so for us, one of the first things that we like to do, or I like to do, because I deal with the customers mainly, is I like to get on the phone with them. And the reason why I like to get on the phone with them, because a lot of times, no offense to anybody who's rented stuff before, but we're not all computer literate, as you guys can see.
Yeah.
and a lot of times these guys, when they're searching for units, they're having just hard times with RV Share or Outdoorsy, and they're just fumbling through the website. So when you actually call some, like I had somebody call me, I was walking on my treadmill, had somebody reach out, give me a call. He's like, I'm looking to rent something. Okay, great. Have you had it? So I had to just kind of dig a little bit, but I spent like 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the phone with him, was able to get that reservation right away, but I probably wouldn't have got it if he would have fumbled through a website or even a platform, right? So he found us on Google, was able to reach out to us. The other thing I have found is that it puts these guys at ease, that there's a kind of a name to a face, right? When they're reaching out to somebody,
a voice.
at least a voice to a face, right? When they're reaching out to people, like they want to know, they want to hear about, they want to know that we are listening to their requests, right? So special situations, like I've got maybe an autistic son, or I need a CPAP machine, or certain things like that aren't typically talked about on the platforms, right? And I get to the kind of the bottom of what their trip is going to look like, and I ask them, tell me about your trip. What does that look like? Who's coming with you? How many do you need to sleep? Do you have pets? And we talk through that. Well, my pet doesn't really shed. Well, and we talk through that stuff and everything, and it's just good. And I always get compliments back from people at the end of those conversations saying, I really appreciate you taking the call. I've even had some people surprised that somebody answered. I was like, well, you called us, So did you want to say anything or touch anything on that?
Nope.
Okay. So response time, and we touched on it a little bit. It's super important. So what I would encourage you guys to do is turn on your notifications. If you run a business, you don't want to neglect it, right?
This is a good time for us to remind you that we are talking to people who want to build an RV rental business, not like the casual, I'm okay if it doesn't go out this month RV renter. And so when we're saying these things, it's because we want you to be successful at building your RV rental business, not that we want you to get weighed down with a bunch of tasks and being devoted to people outside of your little box that you're in. And if all you're looking to do is have them go out every once in a while, then feel free to ignore people, because you're still going to get rentals. It's not going to be that big a deal, and it'll just be on your time schedule and on your preference. But if you want your stuff to go out, it's important to have notifications on, be willing to communicate whenever, wherever. I'm not going to lie, as a wife, when my husband is taking calls, he's on the treadmill, so he's not really interacting with me anyway, but our treadmill is in the living room where we are all sitting around watching TV or playing games or doing whatever we're doing while he's on the treadmill. So when he's taking phone calls, it's not my most favorite thing in the whole wide world, but it is part of the business side of things.
Yep.
That's just it. We do what we have to do to make it work.
Yeah.
And we are also working on creating boundaries and making sure that we are taking care of all the rest of the stuff too. But it's a learning curve, and you got to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. So once you kind of get your booking, you communicate with them, you get your booking, and then kind of throughout the process, I kind of give them a real general message and just basically say, hey, once we get closer to your reservation, we'll reach out and figure out some final details. But if you have anything that you want to add or anything that you want to say, feel free to let us know, right? And I kind of just leave it at that because I don't want to be, once we get the reservation, it's great. We get everything booked. We don't need to talk to them until really kind of close to the reservation, unless there's a special request or if they need another unit or if they need a bigger unit, whatever that looks like, right? So we will take the time to chat through that. And then we're pretty much on a phone basis. You know what I mean? Some people like to talk through the platform for more or less archive, the conversations. And if there's any issues or whatever with billing or maybe a deposit or whatever, they want to have that. For the most part, 95% of the renters like to just text message me and stuff like that, and they feel like it's a lot easier. I have some return renters that I've got them saved in my phone now, so I know if they're calling, then it's probably to talk about that, right? So, and then once we kind of get closer, what we do with our renters is as we kind of lead up to their reservation, I start chatting through like, when is your check-in time? When's your checkout time? What time do you think you're going to be there? So you might be checking in at 1, but you're not going to be there till 2:30. That helps us navigate our weeks as we're dropping off multiple units, right? So
yeah. So on that topic, I think it's important as the RV renter, the person that's renting the RV out, us, you guys. It's important to remember that your renters don't know what you know. And so some of them are going to over communicate and others are going to under communicate. So we've had renters that will like step by step walk us through exactly what it looks like to check in at a campsite that we've been to 40,000 times.
Yeah.
And or at the Gorge where we take rentals every weekend all summer long. And it feels tedious to us, and I have to like, okay, they don't know that you already know how to do this, so they're just trying to be helpful, and that's good. And then we have those people who we get no communication from up until the day of, and then we're asking them questions. They're like, oh, I didn't know I needed to think about that. I didn't know I needed to think about that. And so just keep in mind that you're going to deal with all sorts of different kinds of people. And I think what we've found is that the more questions that you ask up front, the more information you're going to have. And then they're not going to feel like, oh, I'm overloading you with stuff. They might feel like you're overloading them with questions, but that's part of like we have to do that.
Yeah. Quick story on why we learned this and why it's so important. So we had one of our early renters early on rent it for, I think it was a graduation, right, last year. They were going to WSU and they were kind of coming through town, picking up our unit and taking it. Well, he picked it up, right, and we didn't discuss any whether or not he needed water or power or anything like that. So he gets here. We talk about generator and he talked about power. So he ended up taking one, but didn't talk about water. And I just assumed, which you never want to assume, right? Assume that he had hookups or was going to fill up over there because
had a plan.
Yeah, because we had already talked about like his truck that was gonna. It was actually an SUV that was gonna take his unit over there, and we had it's like a 30-foot.
This was a big learning experience rental for us, okay?
And we didn't talk about like him towing it all the way over there, and he was already kind of pushing the limits. So anyway, he gets there, gets everything set up, text messaged me the next morning and said, hey, the shower's kind of being spitty. And I was like, well, you don't have any water in it, dude.
Like we're out of water.
And he's like, well, why didn't you put water in? I was like, well, you didn't say you needed water. Right. And again, that was just a big learning curve. We ended up talking about potentially having to go all the way, which was like 3 hours away to go get some water for him. He was at a festival where he was literally all blocked in, so he couldn't move the unit.
Get out to get water.
So our solution was to get a bunch of gallon waters, like 60 of them, because it was a 60-gallon tank, and go fill it up. And he ended up doing that with the funnel. And we reimbursed him for it and stuff like that. So big learning curve, right? Don't do what we did. Right? So that's why we talk about this stuff. And then, and again, so throughout the process, we're just communicating with them on the phone. And then what we like to do, so once, and this all depends on like where you're dropping off at, right? So if you're dropping off at a campsite and you're meeting them there, obviously you're going to do your walkthrough and all your safety checks and everything else like that, and do that in person. But for us, a lot of our rentals go to the Gorge, and like we've talked about before, we're basically dropping them off, getting them set up. So what we do is once we do that, we do a pin location. I send a picture of it. I snap a picture of that. I send it to them, and I let them know where the unit is. And then we FaceTime each other to do the walkthrough. But then we walk them through proper expectations, which is we're going to get into this next, right? And do you want to talk about some of that? We were going to talk about some of the safety things before, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're going to walk through here when we talk about expectations are things that are outside of our regular safety rules, operations, that kind of stuff. Like, don't walk on the roof, right? It should be common sense, but we put it in there as a rule because if we don't and someone goes up there and something happens, then we're liable.
It's a big safety issue. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's that kind of stuff like roof access. We did mention a few different things before we got on here that I'm not thinking of now, that are just our regular. Yeah, we walk them through the power panel. We walk them through how to reset breakers if they need to. If they're using a generator, we walk them through generator use, and that sort of stuff. But the stuff that we really want to cover with you guys today is walking people through how to manage their expectations of what their trip is going to be like. Because the truth is, most people are thinking, I'm not in a tent, so camping is going to be super luxurious. I'm going to feel like I'm at home. And that's just not the case. And you all know that because you have campers. And we know that because we have campers. But a lot of your renters are going to be people who are either checking out campers for the first time. They
never camped before,
right? They don't know what they're doing, and they don't know what it's really going to be like. And so you have to help them manage their expectations. And so that's some of the stuff that we're going to walk through with you now.
Yeah. So we, I did a video and I haven't posted it yet, but kind of more or less role playing, right? So I'm not going to role play today, but we are going to talk through each one of these items just to make sure like you understand like where we're coming from. We're pretty strong with our approach and making sure that they understand fully what they're getting themselves into. And a lot of times we do this kind of way in the beginning after they've reserved it, and I've already kind of confirmed their reservation, and then after that we're chatting through some things, right? But they always forget. So I always like to do it when it's fresher in their mind, when they get to the campsite. And one of the things is wobbly RVs, right? A lot of times they've got kids, 2 or 3 kids, or there's like 5, 6 people staying in the unit. No matter how good you do a stabilization, no matter how solid your platform is and how level you are, you're gonna have some wobbliness in your RV. So I tell people, look, this isn't your home. This isn't a firm concrete foundation. Some cases you're on grass and you're gonna be a little wobbly, right? So we'll try to do the best we can to make sure, but just know that so you're not getting annoyed, right? We throw those hard words out there because we just want to be kind of honest. I would get annoyed too, right?
Yeah.
If that was the thing.
We do get annoyed when we stay in it.
When we stay in it. Wobbly RV, water smells. A lot of times, especially in 100-degree weather, no matter what you do, when you fill that fresh water tank up and then it sits there while they're either waiting or they're doing their thing or they're staying there for a day or two, that water's just going to get smelly sometimes. It does, right? We do sanitize it. We do clean it out. And we're always kind of rotating through the water and stuff like that. But a lot of times they'll get smelly. So we let our renters know. So look, once you fire up your water or you're taking a shower, you might notice that the water might smell a little bit different. Again, this is in an enclosed tank. A lot of times when you've got fresh water at your home or anything like that, like you don't smell anything, right? So we walk through that.
Yeah, just managing expectations around smells in general, because we're in an enclosed space that is getting beat on by the sun in lots of cases. And so like we talk about septic smells and things like that. And one of the things that I think is the hardest for renters to understand is when you're in a campground with full hookups and you have access to sewer, you do not want your black tanks to be left open the whole time you're there. What happens when you do that is you get a tower of poo and paper and that stuff built up in there, and the water flows right out and down the tank. What prevents that stuff from smelling is having the water in there. Yeah. And so they want to leave those black tanks open because they don't want to have to worry about it filling up. But they're actually creating more issues for themselves on their trip, and then for us later, because we have to deal with breaking that stuff down and making sure we can get it all out. And so yeah, just helping them manage their expectations around smells and really walking them through, this is how you want to treat these systems, because otherwise you are going to have issues and you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah. And if we always drop a tablet in there, right, for the water and the stinkiness, right? But we always tell them, look, if it just continues to get worse, drop another one down there that might help, something like that. So, and then ACs. So when it comes to AC units and stuff like that, again, we tell our renters, look, just want to give you some realistic expectations when it comes to the AC. I know this was a big thing for you coming to this concert, but I want to let you know in RVs and when you're running and you have no power and you're running off generators, a lot of times, it's not going to be as cold as your house. It's not going to be ice cold.
Yeah.
And we warn them because it can ruin your thermostat. Is we tell them, don't go below 68. Keep it right there. That thing's going to continue to run. You don't need to try to get it down to 49 degrees. It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, number one. And you're going to freeze up the AC unit and then it won't work at all. And that's not going to be fun.
And we tell people that, you know what I mean? So, and then we just let them know, look, your home is, nice and cool and our home's nice and cool. But when it comes to camping, a lot of times, a couple of things that you could do is at night, you can open up the windows, get a nice breeze going, get some fresh air in there. And then during the day, kind of close all the shades and do certain things like that. But just to manage, those expectations and let them know, like, this is not like your home. The AC is great. It keeps everything cool, but, it's just not going to be the same. Right. So that's one of the things. And again, we want to talk to them about this stuff because we want their experience to be good. A lot of times, if you don't really kind of let that person know ahead of time, like what to expect, but then it happens and you forgot to let them know, like if you would have let them know, they would have just been like, oh yeah, he told me it was going to happen. But if you didn't, they're going to be like, something is wrong with this. Right. And it's the end of the world. And you know what I mean?
And this is mostly comfort stuff too, you guys. Like, when you're away from home, you want to be as comfortable as possible. And again, like we said, they're coming into a camper expecting that it's going to be 10 times more comfortable than a tent. And it should be, it will be, but depending on the environment, you're still going to have, it's not your bed at home. So the mattresses are not going to be as comfortable. It's not your home AC like we just talked about. So it's probably not going to be as cool. Or if it's colder months, your heater might not keep up the way that your heater at home does, or it might not just come on and off at the same way that your thermostat at home works. Like, there's just going to be stuff that's different. And if we walk people through that and they know what to expect, then they are less likely to call us and complain during their trip. Lewis has mentioned generators a couple of times. And this last year, especially, we learned that generators don't like it when it's hot out either. And we have a lot of renters that go to this concert venue that's nearby, and it is wide open space, no shade. The only shade that you have out there comes from either pop-up tents that you bring with you or your awning from your camper or whatever shade's coming from the camper that's right next to you. And so the generators sit out and it's 110 degrees outside and they're running hot. And so they just don't like to run, which means that our campers don't get AC in that environment. We're really excited. This year they've put some power out there that we've heard about. And so we're hoping that that's going to cut down on some of those types of issues. But it's just another one of those things that we have to help people manage their expectations on, is if it's really hot outside, your generator's not going to want to run. Yeah. And it's going to be good for you to get the place cooled down in the mornings before it gets too hot, and in the evening when it's cooling down and before you go to bed. So. Yeah. Yep. That's a great point. Next thing is we talk about showers, right? Mm-hmm. We say, look, most typical RV units only have a 6-gallon hot water tank, right? And like 6 and 10. Or 6 and 9, I think is what it is. But it's very, very, I tell them, you're going to take a 2 to 3 minute shower at best, right? Now, luckily, the Gorge has some showers that they can take, and pay for there. And lots of campgrounds do too have showers on site. Right. So we want to make sure that they understand, though, because we had a 45-day rental, and she was using it for insurance purposes. They were redoing redoing her bathroom, and I didn't tell her like how long it was. She texted me the first day and said,
there's no more hot water, and it ran out like after 2-3 minutes. I'm like, oh shoot, that was my fault. I should have let you know. That's typical of RVs, right? So that's an important thing. You gotta, again, manage those expectations. Let your renters know this is what to expect, right? So if you're prone to using a shower for 15 minutes in hot water, it's not going to happen with an RV, right? Unless you have an on-demand, which those are nice. When it comes to fresh water tank conservation, and when you're dry camping,
yes.
again, this is a big deal. People just automatically think, again, like they're just at home.
There's water.
There's water. We're always going to use water, and we're always going to wash dishes and wash our hands and do all these different types of things. But we make sure that they understand the conservation that they're going to have to do throughout their stay. Otherwise, if you're a family of 5, you can use all your water literally in a half a day,
right.
Not a full day, like a half a day. So we let them know, like, use your water conservatively. If you bought a case of water to drink, I would use that, right? Make sure that you're watching your showers and all that stuff. And then we show them where all the gauges are, of course. And, that typically they're accurate most of the time.
Yeah.
But that's a big deal is, make sure that we walk them through the fresh water tank and the conservation of that. Generator use, my wife touched on that. And then campsite check-in and check-out times. This is a big thing for us because, on our profiles, we always kind of put just check in at 1 and check out at 1, right? It's just kind of general, but we're super flexible when it comes to those times because we understand that some campsites, like 2:30 is their check-in time, right? And then they want to check out at like 11 or something like that, right? So we're pretty flexible about it.
Yeah.
We let the renter know, like, hey, we're flexible, but just let us know ahead of time, right? And then RV use only toilet paper. Another thing that we talk to our renters about, this is a big deal. You could really jam up a black tank and jam up the toilet and just really kind of ruin that whole system if they use anything outside of the RV use only toilet paper. So what we always talk to them about is we make sure that they understand, like, we provide the toilet paper, it's in there. If you run out, like, let us know, but I doubt we're going to be able to bring you some because we pack plenty.
We try to provide plenty for whatever their trip is.
Yeah, and most trips are 3 days, right? So there's plenty of toilet paper that's in there. And we tell them, if you're going to buy any or you need any or you need to go get some, it's got to be RV use only toilet paper, right? So that's another thing that we make sure and walk them through and just tell them that where it's at and that we have plenty of it.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
No, I was going to talk about the awnings, which is where you're headed.
Do it.
So we know that there are a lot of renters who have opted to disconnect their awnings and they don't let people use them while they're out on rentals. And we haven't had any issues, which is probably why we still go ahead and let them be used. But one of the things that we always talk about with people, because we do live in a place where wind is very common. And when I say wind, I'm talking 20-30 mile per hour wind, not like
that's normal,
a light breeze. And so we always make sure that we spend extra time walking through the usage of the awnings. We show them how they function, in, out, all of that. And then in addition to just walking them through how to use them, we make sure that we cover it multiple times. If you're going to be away from the unit for any period of time, 3 minutes, please pull the awnings in because the wind can change. It can come up without you knowing. When you go to bed, pull them in, and just making sure that they really understand these things are not, it's not a covered porch. It's not a sturdy structure. It is literally designed just to protect you from the sunshine when there is no wind. And if that is, if you're not able to monitor it every moment, you need to make sure you pull it in. And when we take them out to the gorge, we even make sure to cover inebriation as one of those terms. Like if you're drinking, if you're smoking, whatever you're doing, pull it in. We don't want you to lose track of time or, be too far gone that you can't pay attention anymore and then have it get damaged, because it's not going to be fun, and it's for you or for us. So.
Yeah. The next thing is we tell people all the time, and we don't want it to be like a doom and gloom, like this is going to be a terrible experience, but we just let them know, look, RVs are real finicky, right? And everything's different. Like you might have a door that just you have to open up a certain way to close it, right? You might have shades that don't push up and down. Like you have to walk these people through these things, right? There's just all sorts of stuff. So we tell them, look, most likely something is going to happen, right? It might get a leak. There might be something happen. It's okay. Just let us know what's going on, and we'll do the best we can to fix it. We have a mobile tech, or a couple of mobile techs that we have phone numbers for, and if we need to send them out there, we'll send them out there. Or if we need to go fix it ourselves, we will. We've done it before, right? But for the most part, we want to let them know that something is going to potentially happen. Anything can happen,
Right.
and when it doesn't, that's a great. It's like the you over promise, under deliver, right?
Right. Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah, that one. So yeah, we let them know that, in the conversation. And then, when we talk to them about, like, if you want to move it, like a lot of times, we get it set up for them, we talk to them, they like it. The wife gets there and she's like, I don't like where it's at, and wants to move it. Well, we tell them, look, there's certain things, like if you have your stabilizers down and you put your jack up, and you're going to bend the stabilizers and ruin the stabilizers. So we talk to them about certain things like that. And we say, look, if you're going to move it, make sure stabilizers are up before you actually get it connected to your truck, so that you can move it nice and easy. And then same thing when you're actually getting it set, is make sure that you've got it set to the level that you want, and then put your stabilizers down. Your stabilizers aren't there to support the whole weight of what they do, but to support the whole weight of the unit.
Right. They're not designed to
move it up and down, right? To level it up. So we make sure and talk to them through that. And it's real important, because these are the things that they get damaged, right? And they cost a lot of money. And then, like my wife already talked about, the rules and regulations, we kind of sometimes have to remind them that no roof access. And it's a very strict policy for us that there's no tolerating it. If it comes to smoking, if you're smoking in our unit, 100% forfeiture of your deposit. No questions asked. I don't care. Same thing with roof access. If you get on the roof and you break something, you mess something up for whatever reason, 100% forfeiture. And those rules are clear on our rental agreement. So anything else that you want to
I don't think so. I mean, as you guys know, we're always open to questions. We're always looking to get in touch with you and walk you through anything that we might know about that you're wondering about. But the biggest thing is just remember that you're in a customer service business, and that means you're going to be dealing with people and understanding that things are going to go wrong, and helping them understand that there's things that are going to be out of their control. And just how to manage those expectations is going to give them the best experience, and it's also going to be a better experience for you in the long run.
Absolutely. So I hope this video added value to you guys. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. We do have a ton of RV rental business content. You guys can check us out, check out our profiles, and check out our social medias. And as always, happy camping. Thank you.
Camping.
If we can figure out